All right, hey y'all. So as promised, here's a video on my political journey from the dawn of my political awakening to today, making these videos as a voice for protecting American liberty and citizens' rights. And I guess the most common question I would get here is, well, what are your political beliefs? Yeah, it's kind of hard to define. Largely, as you've probably heard before, I believe in fiscal conservatism, fiscal restraint, and socially liberal. That doesn't really define me exactly. I'm conservative with a strong libertarian bent, but I have some liberal ideals, some of which means I think we've just kind of lost the war on them, and the world is going to change around us. Doing my research, I actually believe I fall very closely in with the classical liberalism. And if you don't know what that means, I encourage you to go look it up. It is the beliefs that were of the founding fathers, of Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the Constitution: life, liberty, and property in that case. And it's not liberalism as it's defined in today's world. It's been co-opted by socialists and communists. So basically, I believe in a laissez-faire, hands-off, very small federal government that's there to protect individual liberties, not infringe on them. But how did I get to here? So my dad was a conservative. It might best be described as a Reagan Republican. Not quite, but pretty close. And the first political memory I have is of the gas lines of the 1970s. Sitting there where you have to have a locking cap on your car because somebody might steal your fuel in the middle of the night. The next thing I remember is Reagan firing the air traffic controllers. And unfortunately, I never had a chance to vote for Reagan. I was too young. But the first president I ever voted for was George H.W. Bush, and I'm pretty proud of that. But as the 90s stretched on, this guy came on the scene, and he had charts, and he spoke in plain language, and he said, here's the problems we're facing, and here's another chart on how we're going to actually address that, and here's why it's important. And that was Ross Perot. I voted for Ross Perot twice, and I will never apologize for it. I believe he was the best option for America at the time, and I voted my conscience. Now, eventually, his party was taken over. United We Stand America was taken over by forces that did not represent what he stood for. And I moved to the Democratic Party. And I was a Democrat for about 20 years, give or take. And I believe the Democrats were the most interested in preserving people's individual freedoms. And I think that's the heart. The most important thing that we should do in America is look at, is the government infringing or expanding freedom? And I believed for a long time that's what the Democrats were doing. And so elections stretched by, and I've always voted my conscience. I didn't care what party I was associated with. I voted for the person I felt was the best for the job, who spoke to the issues at the moment. Now, I wasn't a big fan of George W. Bush. I wasn't a big fan of Clinton, never voted for him. And as we moved into the Trump era, I was pretty conflicted. I like, as he's been elected president, I like many of his policies and what he's trying to do for America to restore our standing, restore us as a beacon to the world in spite of the efforts of some of the people in government and society who are trying to tear him down, mostly completely baseless. But I don't like him as an individual. I think he's a cheater, and I didn't vote for him. Let's put it that way. And that's where I stand today. I became very disillusioned with the Democratic Party around the time of the 2016 election. The partisanship, the party politics, the party before country, the identity politics, that we are not all in this together. We're all individual groups that have all been abused and discriminated against by America. I just can't deal with it anymore. And it came to a head for me personally with the Kavanaugh um, vote, and listening to them try to slander and tear down a man and his entire work and his life, all in the interest of party. And that was the moment that I realized these are not the people I want to be associated with. They're not representing me. They're defending Antifa. They're defending socialist regimes around the world. They're defending policies which are against the founding ideals of this country. And that's what I've spent a lot of time educating myself on. And I think that's the most important thing here is it's not what we feel. It's not what feels good. Wow, I think that the minimum wage should be $25. That feels great, but does it have any basis in reality? Let's look back at the Constitution, what it says, what were the intentions of the founding fathers, what were the principles, and what were they fighting against? And once you start to do that, you see that the modern political world is a slow crawl right back to where we started from in the 1700s, 1600s, 1800s, of an incredibly powerful federal government that is not answerable to anybody, when the intention of our Constitution and the Founding Fathers were to push sovereignty down to the people and to the states, to expand liberty, to expand freedom with a tiny, tiny, tiny federal government that did only the bare minimum, not what we have today. From that perspective, I think both the Democrats and the Republicans are off track. Personally, I think that one of the big problems in America today is the two-party system, that they don't agree on anything except they want to keep power for themselves. And that's how I start looking at the libertarian point of view, but I don't think they have an opportunity to really rise to a top-tier political party. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm here to defend liberty. I'm here to respect the Constitution, to respect the founding ideals, return America to a shining bright light on a hill that other people want to emulate or move to. And I listen to the rest of the world, the rest of the political discourse, and I'm just dismayed that people have no respect for our history, our founding ideals, or respect for people and their personal freedom and property rights. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear it, but that's me in a nutshell.